G'day, I'm Neil Ross. Welcome to my house. I'm representing the Friends of Shades Creek for the Cahaba River fry down but not out cooking competition. This year we're going virtual. This year's submission, my dish is going to be fish and grits. Pretty simple. And it is simple, and I really hope that you folks watching would try to cook it at home, because there's no reason you can't if you have some basic ingredients. And speaking of ingredients, we've tried to use as much as possible local ingredients. And the stars of this show are yellow grits, and we have two kinds of fish, catfish and crawfish. And my wife Jane reminded me today that Alabama is one of the most diverse, biologically diverse states in the country. And we have 97 varieties of crawfish. And that's just, we beat out Mississippi and Louisiana in that regard. So these three ingredients, the fish and the grits, are the stars of the show. But I also want to point out that I've got a little bit of a twist on the traditional grits, and that's that I'm going to do them with coconut. So it's coconut milk instead of water. And right now I have some coconut milk almost to the boil over here. And we've also got coconut in the batter that'll cover the catfish. So there's a little double play with coconut. You don't have to use coconut. You can use regular flour if you want, and you can use regular water. But this, I've tried this before, and it's got a very good flavor, and it kind of changes the texture of the grits a little bit, and they become very creamy. So if you don't like the texture of grits, have a go at trying it this way. So the other ingredients are readily available. One of the really cool things that we're doing here, I've got to have some green on the plate because yellow, and you know, when this fries up, it's going to look yellow. So we've got pickled okra. I'm going to split this open and take out the seeds. We're going to call those seeds caviar, okra caviar. And then we've got some pickled asparagus, and then we have panko to finish the frying of the fish off with. One of the other tips going back to the grits is that I like to use white pepper instead of black pepper or a pepper melange or a colored pepper. White pepper just will look better in the dish, and it'll taste a lot better in the dish. And so if you don't have a grinder, you can use a metal and pestle, and I simply just crush it in there. And you could, even as I do that, you can smell it. It's just fantastic. White pepper. So I'm going to take a break and just do a little more prep so you don't have to watch everything, and then we'll be right back. The grits are going to take the longest time to cook, so it makes sense to start those first. I've already got, oh by the way, grits, it's always 4 parts liquid to 1 part grits, so alter your recipe accordingly. I actually have 4 cups of coconut milk and a little pinch of salt, and this thing is right at the boil now, so I'm going to go ahead and add the grits. And this is, recipe for this is on the back of your grits packet, but you should know, all your southern cooks will know, that you always add the grits slowly and whisk as you're doing so. And you don't have to have one of these. Wooden spoon, anything, just slowly whisk it in there. If you pour it in one big bunch, it'll just clump and it'll be lumpy and not smooth, and we don't want that. And towards the end of this, when it's almost cooked, we're going to add a little bit of butter. Richard, why do we add butter?
Because it tastes good.
No, because butter's better. That's right, we always put a little bit of butter in there. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to use those white peppercorns. So that is well mixed in there now. There's no lumps, clumps. I can stop doing that, and if you don't have any of these tools, any of this stuff, the universal tool, the chopstick, always works great. It's my go-to, especially when I'm out in the bush or in the woods, as you would say here. Always carry chopsticks with you. Okay, let's put the lid on, turn it down to simmer, move it to the back burner to give us room to do other work. And there we are. That's going to take probably 20 to 30 minutes. And we're going to check on it every 5 minutes, but you guys don't have to watch that. We want to go as fast as we can. So, back in a second. We're back. Don't forget to keep stirring your grits, otherwise they're going to stick to the pan and it's going to be a mess, and like I said, they'll be all lumpy. But they're coming along nicely. Next thing we're going to do, oh wait, I'm getting thirsty. Do you mind if I have a glass of wine? Jane, Richard, would you like one?
Why, yes.
All right. Well,
wine.
come on in.
I
Here
thought
it
you'd
is.
never ask.
I know, but you know, you got to have white wine with fish. So there you go.
For sure.
Salud.
Cheers.
This okra over here is going to be the most tedious part of this whole deal, and feel free to just completely skip over it, because you know these things are absolutely delicious by themselves. But we're going to use the shell as part of the sauce that goes over or in with the crawfish that finally will go over the catfish. So this is really tedious. I'm just going to show you one, it's a slit down the middle, and then we just take these seeds out. And like I said, tedious, horrible, prefer not to do it, but good things take time and take effort. So, and then once all the seeds are out, we're going to dice these. You'd flip it over and then you would dice it. And that pile of that, when I finish with it, is going to go into the crawfish, and that's garnish. Be back in a second. Glasses down. Back to the grits. Just give it a quick whisk to make sure it's right, and it's getting very close to the consistency we're looking at or for. So I am going to turn that down even more and just let it sit, because next on the show is our breading. I use 3 different containers. You can use whatever you want. These work well with the fish because it's a little larger. I'll actually be cutting the fish down to smaller portions later on. But the first thing So, the wash, we have an egg, little egg white, beat it up, good enough, and then put it somewhere where we can get to it later. Next thing we do, and I'm coming in a little bit here, so just excuse me if I'm too much in the camera. This is the seasoning we're going to use in the coconut flour. This is a multi-purpose seasoning. Oh yeah. So we just want to season the breading a little bit, not a lot, because we don't power the fish. That's good. And then we just mix it in a little bit. Good enough. Remember, we want the coconut and the fish to shine through, and of course the grits, and then it's going to get finished with the crawfish, and we're going to make a sauce with that crawfish. We'll be doing that next, and I really think it's just going to pop and be good flavors all around. So again, quick little break, quick little sip, be back in a sec. So grits are done, some of the prep's done, time to get on with the fish. Here's our catfish. And you'll notice that it has a seam down the middle of the fillet. We're going to take that and cut it into 2 pieces right down that, because this dish can be served either as an appetizer or main course. So we're basically doing appetizer portions here. And we have our breading that we've already talked about, the technique for it. I like to work from first to the second to the third and straight in the pan, and that way for all battering type products is that we go from dry to wet to dry to hot oil. So I got to make sure that oil is hot. During the break I turned it down and I'm bringing it back up to temp now. Flour with the spice, and we're just dusting it with this. This is so that the egg wash will adhere to it. Excuse my fingers, but it's not being served to the public, so I don't have to have gloves and I don't have to have a mask. Lucky me. Unlucky public, because it's going to be delicious. So there is the first dry. Let's get that wet. Come on, get over there. There we go. And then we finish in the panko. Might as well do this one while I'm at it. And I made a mess, see? You always make when you're doing fried food. But I think this oil is just about right. We'll see it bubble when it is. Let me crank it up just a little bit. Make sure it all adheres here. And I'm ready. I'm just going to test it. Yes, it's bubbling. Gently in. I used to be a bush cook, so I got asbestos fingers. Don't try this at home. And there we go. So that's going to take probably 3 or 4 minutes on each side, not long at all. But staging of food is really important, that it all finishes at the same time. Grits are up here. We haven't finished them, but they're almost done. They're just sitting at the moment. When this is cooked, we'll put them in a warming drawer just to keep them nice and crisp and at perfect temperature before we serve them. So you don't need to watch me flip this. You know how it works. Cook on one side, cook on the other side, and then hold it until you're ready to actually serve it. So next segment's going to be the final prep on the crawfish sauce. Be back in a sec. Welcome back. Glad you're staying with us. Hope you can stay right to the end, and we're not far from it. Here's the fish, beautiful golden brown, and on a hot plate, and going into the warming drawer. That's done as far as I'm concerned. We can't forget about the grits. It's always about the grits, the grits, the grits, the grits. So here we are. What did I say earlier, Richard, about this stuff? Butter is better, and that's what we're going to finish it with. We get a little pat of butter. Come on, pat, pat, pat away. Let's go. Okay, let's finish this up. And what was the other secret ingredient to the grits? The white pepper, which is beautifully ground over here. Let's go with that. Boom. We are virtually done on the grits. Just combine it all, let it sit, ready for plating as soon as the crawfish is done, and we're going to do that next. So we've got a pan with butter. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to, here's what goes into this. Crawfish, of course. Peppers out of Jane's garden. The okra, the pickled okra, that's going to go in at the very last because we really don't want to cook it. We don't want it to get slimy. It's just for texture and flavor. And I didn't point out earlier, but this is a hot version of a pickled okra. And there are mild versions out there, but I think because of the crawfish and the flavors and everything else, the hot stuff's going to work better for what we want today. Let's get this going here real quick. Rough cuts are fine. Remember, I'm a bushman, so it doesn't really matter. It's all going to cook down pretty quickly. Let's get some heat on this sucker. Let the oil get into it, and you know, basic salt and pepper is all you really need for this. So let's hit that. My pepper that I keep up here is a colored pepper. It's got the black, the pink, the red, the white, maybe even purple. I don't know. So let's bring this up to temp. And you don't need to watch that. You know what temperature looks like. It gets higher. It gets hotter. Oh, God. Okay, back in a sec. Back from commercial break. While you guys were gone, I just threw a little bit of garlic into this pan. Again, just to add a little more depth of flavor. Optional. You don't have to worry about it. Ready for the crawfish. We've got our pan at a very high temperature. I'm only doing a small portion here, so I'm not going to do all of this, but this is plenty for this one. We're going to let it don't need to cook this very quickly. I mean, we need to cook it quickly, but high temperature and quickly. We don't want them to get chewy or rubbery or anything like that. So this will not take long at all. Hey, remember that wine I was drinking earlier? Boom. We're going to use that to deglaze this pan and make a sauce out of it. But we've just got a few more seconds to go here before we're going to be ready to do that. And I think we're just going to go ahead, get some of that garlic, some of that pepper off the pan. You see how clean that pan is now? That's what we want. Now, here's the thing. I think that sauce is just a little too liquid for my liking. So and you could swirl butter in that if you wanted to thicken it up. But here's another little bush trick. This is tapioca flour in a little bit of water. If I add this in here and then stir it around, this is going to thicken up to just the consistency that I'm looking for. So that it sticks when we're done, when we plate this, it's going to stick to the grits and the fish and everything else. And look at that. Look how that's sticking in the pan now. That's what I'm looking for. We're done on that part of the dish. And we'll be back to plate it up and let you see it for yourself. Back in a bit. So while you guys were gone, I added the chopped pickled okra because we said we don't want this to get slimy, and we put it in at the very last. So that's done. And the consistency of the sauce is exactly where I want it to be. We're ready to plate. So first thing down is the grits, and I'm using a portion controller for that, and it'll mount up nicely in the center of the plate. Oh, I'm so awkward. I'm going to clean that up. No one saw that, right? Okay, so there's the start. Then we're going to bring the catfish on. And we got the 2 pieces of catfish, golden brown. They've been in there, and I can feel them, and they actually feel great. I'm going to push that one a little bit to the side right there. Now we can sauce. Need a spoon, thank you. And we're going to run that sauce down to the edge of this plate. We're really close to being finished here, folks. All we have to do is add the caviar. And I want a little bit of a mound of caviar in one corner so the diners go, what is this? I've never seen anything like this before. So that goes in that corner. In this corner, we have out of our garden miniature cucumbers. So we'll put a couple of miniature cucumbers over there. Like that. Interesting presentation. And then down on this side, some Diablo. And this is just going to go down the side of the plate here, which is kind of intriguing and making people think, what's that? So there's the finished dish, guys. How quick was that and how easy? Thank you for joining us. Neil Ross, representing Friends of Shades Creek, Cahaba River, fried down, but definitely not out. Bon appetit. I'm pathetic. Richard just told me that I forgot the bloody asparagus. So, Richard, here's the asparagus. It was sitting in front of me the whole time. I don't know where to put it, mate. How about we hide it under there and bring it out? Okay, dish is now complete. Coconut grits with fish, 2 ways. Catfish and crawfish, all with a local theme and a coconut theme. ×2, bon appetit. See you later.